Hi, second grade. How are you guys? I miss you guys so much. I know what you guys are thinking. Where have I been? That's a great question. I have not posted a video all week. I am so sorry. I told you guys I was moving and things were just absolutely crazy here, so I had no time to record a video, and I am so sorry. But I'm going to make up to it. I'm going to make it up to you today, and I'm going to read a few chapters in Because of Winn-Dixie, so hopefully we can finish this book before Friday of next week, because that's your last day of school, which is just so crazy. Can you guys believe it? You guys have one more week, and then you're third graders. What? Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. And that means in 1 week, I'm going to be a third grade teacher too. What? Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, let's see. I went to school today and I finished packing up our classroom so all of our stuff can get moved to our new classroom, which I can tell you guys is room number 13. Okay, so that's exciting. And what else did I do at school today? I saw Miss Brown, and they are getting all ready for you guys to come next week and pick up your stuff. So remember, on Tuesday and Thursday, there's different times. I think second grade's at 10 a.m., okay, to come and pick up your stuff. And maybe you should go with your parents, because you never know who's going to be at school for pickup, okay? So I might be there. I don't know. Okay, you guys got to go and find out. I'm trying to think what else. Next week, you don't have school on Monday, and then you guys finished your last story. You finished Rumpelstiltskin this week, which is so crazy because that was your last story for second grade. Next week, you have one assignment. One. That's it. Okay? And it is, I think, 14 questions, and you just have to fill that out, and then you're done. You're done with second grade with reading and writing. I think Miss Coda might be posting some assignments for you still. But for me, you have one assignment next week, and then you are done with reading and writing until August, which is so nice, okay? And some of you guys, though, I think are going to be in my extended school year, okay? So if you're not in extended school year and you guys want to be in extended school year, let me know. I have some spots open. It's from June 15th to July 9th, okay? So let me know if you want to be in extended school year and you are not, okay? I think I have 5 spots left in my class, so let me know and I can get you guys added. And I think that's it. Okay, I'm going to read Because of Winn-Dixie now. All right, Chapter 14. Sometimes I told Gloria the story of Miss Franny Block had just told me, or I imitate Otis tapping his pointy-toed boots and playing for all the animals, and that always made her laugh. And sometimes I made up stories, and Gloria Dump would listen to it all the way through from beginning to end. She told me she used to love to read stories, but she couldn't anymore because her eyes were so bad. Can't you get some really strong glasses? I asked her. Child, she said, they don't make glasses strong enough for these eyes. One day, when our storytelling was done, I decided to tell Gloria that Otis was a criminal. I thought maybe I should tell an adult about it, and Gloria was the best adult I knew. Gloria, I said. Mm-hmm, she said back. You know Otis. I don't know him, but I know what you tell me about him. Well, he's a criminal. He's been to jail. Do you think I should be afraid of him? For what for? I don't know, for doing bad things, I guess, for being in jail. Child, said Gloria, let me show you something. She got up out of her chair real slow, took hold of my arm. Let's the two of us walk all the way to the back of this yard. Okay, I said. We walked, and Winn-Dixie followed right behind us. It was a huge yard, and I'd never been all the way in the back of it. And when we got to a big old tree, we stopped. Look at this tree, Gloria said. I looked up, and there were bottles hanging down from just about every single branch. Me and Winn-Dixie stood there and stared at the tree. The hair on top of his head rose up a little bit, and he growled deep in his throat due to the spooky kind of noises that the bottles were making. What do you think about this tree? I don't know. Why are there all the bottles on it? To keep the ghost away, Gloria said. What ghost? The ghost of all the things I'd done wrong. I looked at the bottles on the tree. You did that many things wrong? Mm-hmm, said Gloria. More than that. But you're the nicest person I know, I told her. That doesn't mean I haven't done bad things. she said. Oh, sorry. Where am I at? Oh, okay. Some of the things I did were bad, said Gloria. Some of them I would have done anyway. Before I learned it. Learned what? Learn the most important thing. What's that? It's different for everyone, she said. You find it on your own. But in the meantime, you just gotta remember you can't always judge people by the things they've done. You judge them by what they're doing now. You judge Otis by the pretty music he plays and how kind he is to them animals. And because that's all you know about him right now. Yes, ma'am. And them Dewberry boys. Try not to judge them too harsh either. All right? All right, I said. All right then, said Gloria Dunn. And she turned and started walking away, when Dixie nudged me with his wet nose and wagged his tail. When he saw I wasn't going, he trotted after Gloria. I stayed where I was and studied the tree. I wondered if my mama knew, wherever she was, had a tree full of bottles, and I wondered if I was a ghost to her, the same way sometimes she seemed like a ghost to me. All right, chapter 15. The Herman W. Block Library. Air conditioning. Library's air conditioning unit didn't work very good. Sometimes our air conditioning unit doesn't work very good in our room, right? And there was only one fan, and from the minute me and Winn-Dixie got to the library, he hogged it all. He laid right in front of it and wagged his tail and let his fur blow all around. And sometimes his fur was pretty loose, and it blew right off him like a dandelion. I worried about him hogging the fan, and I worried about the fan blowing him bald, but Miss Franny said not to worry about either of those things. And when Dixie could hog the fan if he wanted, and she never in her life seen a dog go bald by a fan. Sometimes when Miss Franny was telling me a story, she would have a fit. They were small fits, and they didn't last long, but when it happened, she would just forget what she was saying. She would just stop talking and shake a little like a little leaf. Then when it happened, when Dixie would get up from the fan and sit right at Miss Fanny Brock's side, and he would sit up tall, protecting her with his ears standing straight up on his head like soldiers. And when Miss Franny stopped shaking and started talking again, when Dixie would lick her hand and lie back down in front of the fan. Whenever Miss Franny had one of her fits, it reminded me of Winn-Dixie and thunderstorms. There were a lot of thunderstorms that summer. And I got real good at holding on to Winn-Dixie whenever they came. I held on to him and comforted him and whispered and rocked him just the same way he had tried to comfort Miss Franny and when she had one of her fits. Only I held on to Winn-Dixie for another reason, too. I held on to him tight so he couldn't run away. It made me think about Gloria Dump. I wondered who comforted her when she heard those bottles knocking, and those ghosts were chattering about all the things she'd done wrong. I wanted to comfort Gloria Dump, and I decided the best way to do that would be to read her a book, and I read it to her loud enough to keep those ghosts away. And so I asked Miss Franny, I said, Miss Franny, I got a grown-up friend whose eyes are going on her, and I would like to read her a book out loud. Do you have any suggestions? Suggestions, Miss Franny said. Yes, ma'am, I have suggestions. Of course I have suggestions. What about Gone with the Wind? What's that about? I asked her. Why, it's a wonderful story about the Civil War. The Civil War? I said. Don't tell me you have not heard of the Civil War. I know about the Civil War, I told her. That was the war between the South and the North over slavery. Slavery, yes, said Miss Franny. It was terrible about the states' rights and money, and it was a terrible war. My great-grandfather fought in the war, and he was just a boy. Your great-grandfather? Yes, ma'am. Litmus W. Block. Now there's a story. Winn-Dixie yawned real big and laid down on his side with a thump and a sigh, and I swear he knew that phrase, now there's a story. And he knew it meant we weren't going anywhere real soon. I sat cross-legged next to Winn-Dixie and said, Go ahead and tell it to me, Miss Franny. I was all settled in and ready for a good story when the door banged and pinch-faced up Amanda Wilkinson came in. Winn-Dixie sat up and stared at her. He tried out a smile on her, but she didn't smile back, so he laid down again. I'm ready for another book, Amanda said, slamming her book down on Miss Franny's desk. Well, said Miss Franny, maybe you wouldn't mind waiting. I'm telling India Opal a story about my great-grandfather. You are, of course, more than welcome to listen. It'll just be 1 minute. Amanda sighed, a real big dramatic sigh, and stared past me. She pretended like I wasn't even interested, but she was, I could tell. Come, sit over here, said Miss Franny. I'll stand, thank you, said Amanda. Suit yourself, Miss Franny shrugged. Now, where was I? Oh, yes, Litmus. Litmus W. Block. Chapter 16. Litmus W. Block was just a boy from the when the firing on Fort Sumter occurred, said Miss Franny Block. Fort Sumter, I said. It was the firing of Fort Sumter that started the war, said Amanda. Okay, I said. I shrugged. Well, Litmus was 14 years old. He was big, strong, and he was just a boy. His daddy, Artwell, W. Block, had already enlisted, and Litmus told his mama that he could not stand by and let the South get beat, so he went to fight. Miss Franny looked at the library, and then she whispered, Men and boys always want to fight. They're always looking for a reason to go to war. It's the saddest thing. They have no notion that war is fun, and no history lesson will convince them differently. Anyway, Litmus went and enlisted, and he lied about his age. Yes, ma'am, he said he was a big boy, and the army took him, and Litmus went off to war just like that, left behind his mother and his 3 sisters. He went off to be a hero, but soon he found out the truth. Miss Franny closed her eyes and shook her head. What truth? I asked. Why, that war is hard. War is hard. War, said Miss Franny, with her eyes still closed, should be a cuss word. She shook her head and she opened her eyes and she pointed at me and then she pointed at Amanda. You, neither of you, can imagine. No, ma'am, Amanda and me said at the exact same time, and we looked real quick at each other and then back at Miss Franny. You cannot imagine. Litmus was all hungry all the time. He was covered with all manner of everything, of fleas and lice, and in the winter he was so cold he thought for sure he would freeze to death. And in the summer, why, there's nothing worse than the war in summertime. It stinks. And the only thing that made Litmus forget that he was hungry and itchy and hot or cold was the war. And and he was nothing more than a child. Did he get killed? I asked Miss Franny. Good grief, said Amanda, and she rolled her eyes. Now, Opal, Miss Franny said, I wouldn't be standing in this room telling this story if he was killed. I wouldn't exist, no, ma'am. He had to live, but he was a changed man, yes, ma'am. He changed, and he walked back till the war was over. He walked from Virginia all the way back to Georgia. He didn't have a horse. Nobody had horses except for the Yankees. He walked, and when he got home, there was no home there. Where was it? I asked. I didn't care if Amanda thought I was stupid. I wanted to know. Why? Miss Franny shouted so loud that Winn-Dixie and Amanda Wilkinson and me all jumped. The Yankees burnt it. Yes, ma'am, burnt it to the ground. What about his sisters? Amanda asked. She moved around the desk, and she came up and sat on the floor, and she looked at Miss Franny. What happened to them? Dead of the typhoid fever. Oh, no, Amanda said in a real soft voice. And his mama, I whispered, dead too. And his father, what happened to him? Died on the battlefield. Litmus was an orphan, I asked. Yes, ma'am. Litmus was an orphan. This is a sad story, I told Miss Franny. It sure is, said Amanda. I was amazed that she was agreeing with me about something. I'm not done yet, Miss Franny said. When Dixie started to snore and I nudged him with my foot to try and make him quit, I wanted him to hear the rest of the story. I wanted to hear the rest of the story. It was important to me that I hear how Litmus survived after losing everything that he loved. Chapter 17. Well, Litmus came home from the war, said Miss Franny after she went on with her story, and found himself alone, and he sat down on what used to be the front step of his home, and he cried and he cried. He cried like a baby. He missed his mama, he missed his dada, and he missed his sisters, and he missed the boy he used to be. And when he finally finished crying, he had the strangest sensation. He felt like he wanted something sweet. He wanted a piece of candy, and he hadn't had a piece of candy in years, and it was right then it made him think of a decision. Yes, ma'am. Litmus W. Block figured the world was a sorry affair and that it had enough ugly things in the world, and what he was going to do was concentrate on putting something sweet in it. He got up and started walking, and he walked all the way to Florida, and the whole time he was walking, he was planning. Planning what? I asked. Why, planning the candy factory. Did he build it? Of course he did. It's still standing on Ferryville Road. That old building, said Amanda, that big spooky one. It's not spooky, said Miss Franny. It was the birthplace of my family fortune, and it was where my great-grandfather manufactured the Litmus Longes, a candy that was famous all over the world. Never heard of it, said Amanda. Neither, I said. Well, said Miss Franny, they aren't made anymore. The world, it seemed, has lost its appetite for the Litmus Longinus, but it has happened in a few. I still happen to have a few. She opened the top drawer of her desk, and it was full of candy, and she opened the drawer below that, and it was full of candy, too. Miss Franny Block's whole desk was filled with candy. Would you care for one? She asked. Yes, please. Sure. Can Winn-Dixie have one, too? I asked. I've never known a dog that cared for hard candy, but he is welcome to try one. Miss Franny gave Amanda one, and me too. I unwrapped it and held it out to Winn-Dixie, and he sat up and sniffed it and wagged his tail and took the candy from between my fingers real gentle. He tried to chew on it, and when that didn't work, he just swallowed the whole thing in one gulp, and then he wagged his tail at me and laid back down. I ate mine slow. It tasted good. It tasted like root beer and strawberry and something else I didn't have a name for, something that made me feel kind of sad. I looked over at Amanda, and she was sucking on her candy, thinking hard. Do you like it? Miss Franny asked me. Yes, ma'am, I told her. What about you, Amanda? Do you like it? Yes, ma'am, but it makes me think of things I feel sad about. I wondered what in the world Amanda Wilkinson had to feel sorry about. She wasn't new to town. She had a mama and a daddy, and I'd seen them at church. There's a secret ingredient in there, Miss Franny said. I know it, I told her. I can taste it. What is it? Sorrow. Not everyone can taste it. Children especially seem to have a hard time knowing it's there. I taste it, I said. Me too, said Amanda. Well then, you've probably both had your share of sadness. I had to move away from Whatley and leave all my friends. That's one sadness I have. And Dunlap and Stewie Dewberry are always picking on me. That's another sadness. And the biggest one, my biggest sadness, is that my mama left me when I was still small and I could hardly remember her. I keep hoping I'll get to meet her and tell her some stories. It makes me miss Carson, said Amanda. She sounded like she was going to cry. I have to go. And then she got up and ran out of the Herman W. Block Memorial Library. Who's Carson? I asked Miss Franny. She shook her head. Sorrow. It's a sorrow-filled word. How do you put that in a piece of candy? How do you get it to taste in there? That's a secret. That's why Litmus made a fortune. He manufactured a piece of candy that tasted sweet and sad at the same time. Can I have a piece to take to my friend Gloria Dump, and another one to take to Otis down at the Gertrude Pets, and one for the preacher, and one for Sweetie Pie too? You may have as many as you want, said Miss Franny. So I stuffed my pockets full of Litmus lozenges, and thanked Miss Franny for her story, and checked out Gone with the Wind, which was a very big book. And I told Winn-Dixie to get up, and the two of us went right over to Gloria Dump's. I rode past the Dewberry's house. Dunlap and Stevie were playing football in the front yard, and I was just getting ready to stick my tongue out at them. But then I thought about what Miss Franny said about the war being hard, and I thought about what Gloria Dump had said about not judging them too hard. So I just waved instead. They stood and stared at me. When I was almost all the way past, I saw Dunlap put his hand up in the air and waved back. Hey, he hollered. Hey, Opal. I waved harder, and I thought about Amanda Wilkinson, about how neat that it was that she liked a good story, the same as I, and I wondered again, who was Carson? All right, we are going to stop there today, and hopefully we'll be able to finish this book. We only have a little, I think we have like 5 or 6 chapters left. So I hope you guys have a great long weekend. Maybe on Monday I'll post another video so you guys have something to do on Monday. But I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will talk to you on Tuesday. Bye!